Alright, so here we are with the small Jackson Gnarvana. Finally a review for you. I admit I haven't got a lot of paddling experience in, only a couple times, but I think I got enough to give you an idea and give a little bit of a rating here on this boat. So let's just take a look at it first. It's for a small, it's still a pretty decent sized boat here. You got a pretty nice large bow. I'm not necessarily a fan of the bow. Doesn't look good for one, and I think it's still over the top big, at least for my paddling style. I'm not quite of a fan of the bow. I get it, like in huge water, that bow is going to really serve you a good purpose, going over stuff, punching through holes. But for me, and the most of the stuff I paddle, I don't really need a bow that large. But I get the purpose of the boat is to paddle really stout water, so I get that side of things. The stern is actually really super nice. Comes down real thin here, very maneuverable, does rock spins and stuff really well. I actually really love the stern on the boat. It doesn't catch, it has enough volume here where it doesn't catch when it goes through big holes, but also it's thin enough and narrows down enough to give you a nice amount of maneuverability around rocks and things like that. So just some specs on the boat. So lengthwise, it's 8'6", which is nice. It's a fairly short creek boat. Gallon wise, it's 80 gallons, which still is quite a bit for a small, again, which is nice if you're going in big rapids. A lot of smaller creek boats nowadays are either too small, and then you have the medium, which is too big. This really fits that kind of gap that smaller paddlers need if they want a small, they can still paddle in a lot of big rivers. Anyway, that's besides the point. Width wise, it's 26 inches wide. It weighs 43 pounds, and I feel like that's about right, just kind of carrying around, haven't put it on the scale. And then optimal paddle rate for the smallest says 110 to 160. I feel that's actually, I kind of think they shorted themselves a little bit. I think somebody probably even 180 could paddle this boat on most stuff and be completely fine. So paddle range, I don't know, 100 to 180, probably the true paddle range in my opinion. That's just my opinion, but Jackson really hit a good spot as far as the small and fitting a lot of different paddlers, and for the small paddler wanting to paddle some big water and not get the stern caught or the bow caught in the big holes and stuff like that. So anyways, just kind of going over the boat here again. I already mentioned the bow and stern a little bit, but they put grab handles in here. They did eliminate the GoPro thing, which I don't think many people use anyway, so not a big deal. Still got your standard Jackson handles here, the two of them, the one small, one big. They did add a grab handle back here, I believe, or they enlarged these. I think these were smaller in like the original Gnarvana series, so they put bigger ones back here. You got your one back there, and the drain plug, which is recessed, nice Gnarvana graphic here. The styling over on the boat, I have to say I'm not a huge fan of the styling. The bow is more or less, I'll go ahead and say it's ugly. It's ugly bow, but it has a purpose. So, but it's not very good looking anyway. So the outfitting, standard Jackson outfitting. I like Jackson outfitting. A lot of people don't like these ropes, but they really hold you in here really well. It comes with the bee's knees, obviously, like all the new Jackson boats, which is nice. You can't beat how easy Jackson outfitting is to move. The seat, just unscrew that, pop it forward or back. Does really good. This boat seems to paddle the best all the way back, at least for the small. Kind of lifts that bow up and gives you a little more motion, a little more maneuverability from side to side and that kind of thing. Got a lot of room up here, not a problem with comfort. Full shoes, actual shoes in here, no problem. And then like I said, back here you got plenty of room to store stuff. It's not a ton of room, obviously it's not a medium, but it's still a lot of room for a small boat. Alright, the edges on this boat, it does have decently sharp edges, but they're kind of a good mix of being aggressive and being soft. Good secondary and primary stability on this boat. Nice flat hole there for spinning. It does do rock spins really well. Comes off rocks pretty good. Plastic on the boat, standard Jackson plastic. I will say I've noticed on the new Rockstars they've had some cracking here in the cockpits. I've seen some warranty. Haven't seen anything on the Gnarvana yet, so maybe they fixed that. But it's the same, feels like the same Jackson plastic. I mean, it holds up pretty well. It will shave off a little bit, but I haven't seen a lot of Jackson boats, you know, crack on the hole or anything like that. They have pretty good plastic overall. I think the cost on Jackson now is $15.99. But they have been doing some sales recently with like 20% off, so it drops to like $13.99, I believe. So keep your eyes out for that. This is CKS's demo, so thank you CKS for letting me borrow the boat. And if you want to pick up a boat, hit up Johnny Ortiz at CKS. All right, so let's get on to the ratings here. So So let's start off with the ratings here on the outfitting, safety, and that kind of thing, comfort level. I want to give this boat a 9. I think it's a very safe boat. A lot of room up here in the knees to get out if you need to. The outfitting is comfortable. It's not my favorite outfitting, which is why I'm not going to give it a 10, but it's still great outfitting. Your knees stay in here pretty well and lock up. You feel connected to the boat. The plastic's pretty good, like I said. Overall quality of the boat's pretty well constructed. So as far as comfort and everything, safety, I can stay in it all day if I needed to. I can get out, like I said, if I need to. So I'll give it a 9 again on comfort and safety and all that kind of thing with the outfitting. It's a good outfitted boat and solidly made boat. All right, let's get into downriver. I think depending on where you are, this could have a different rating downriver. I don't think it's a great boat for like Mankey creeks downriver or in creeking in general. It's got that large bow, which is kind of hard to get in between like really tiny spaces and things like that. So let's go with what this boat is made for, which is really stout downriver, like the Stikine or something like that. Obviously I haven't paddled on that and I'm not going to, but I would say if you're going to paddle this boat on something like that, it's going to be a 9.5 for downriver. Now the creaking and stuff kind of around here, I'm going to give it like an 8. It's just not that fun of a boat to have downriver, but what it's made to do, 9.5. That huge bow and stuff's going to go over pretty much any stout hole you see. So again, it's going to do what it's made to do. And the stern, it's narrow enough where it has that speed to carry through holes and carry over rapids. And I really like the stern. Also maneuverable. So yeah, downriver, I want to give this thing a 9.5 for what it's made for, which is big stout rivers. Alright, now all you Gnarvana fans in Jackson aren't going to be happy about this rating. But for creeking, I'm honestly going to give this thing an 8, which I know it's a creek boat, but I think it's really more of a downriver big boat, at least in my opinion, big water boat. Now, I'm not a huge fan, again, I've taken on the pigeon drives and stuff creeking, and a lot of times it will get offline a little bit with this huge bow, and I wasn't a fan of that. And also, it's just so big up here, it's kind of hard to maneuver, like, if you're really trying to go in and out of spots very fast. Now, obviously, the best paddle in the world will have no problem on this on any sort of creek, and a lot of people take it down any sort of creek, so that's fine. It's just my opinion, one person's opinion on the boat. Someone might love this as a creek boat. Just my paddling style, I like more of a kind of nimble paddling boat. So for me, I'm going to give it an 8, but again, it's still a great creeking boat, don't get me wrong. It will do the job. I'm just comparing it to what I like in my style. So I'm going to give this thing an 8 for creeking, but again, it's a great creek boat, it's safe and all that kind of stuff, so don't get me wrong, if you like the Gnarvana, stick with it. If you want the Gnarvana, go for it. My last kind of rating, and obviously it's not a play boat, let's do playability for a creeker though. I would still give this thing like a 8 to 9, anywhere in that range. I'm not going to necessarily nail down to one number, but it does boof really well, it spins really well, it side surfs well, you can get out, it will catch in the side surf. You can surf out of a hole because it's not a full displacement hole, so it's still a pretty playable boat. Like I said, you can boof it, you can do rock spins with it, so as far as the creek boat's concerned, it does pretty well, it does the job. So anywhere from an 8 to a 9 for a creek boat and playability, it's pretty good. Alright, so last kind of thing I do is kind of, why would you buy a Gnarvana, or who's this for? I think if you're out west, this is probably the boat to have. Out west, it's kind of that higher volume river type feel with bigger holes and bigger rapids and that kind of thing. I think this is truly a boat. If I was out west, I would definitely own a Gnarvana Small or medium, I'm not sure, but this is, I think, what that boat's made for, at least in the United States. Obviously, I'm not sure about European countries where you'd want it for, but, and if you're kind of in that in-between range like me, like 140, 160, and you want a small creek boat, but you don't fit it, that's the small Scorch is too small, the small Code's too small, that kind of thing. This is another good kind of one of those schmediums, I call it. Even though it's a small, I would say it's more of a schmedium. So obviously, if you fit in that weight range and you want something with a little more volume and a little more lift off the water to go over bigger rapids and stuff, this would be a good boat for you. But as far as like the southeast and stuff, it'll do fine. It wouldn't be my boat of choice for the southeast, but yeah, if you're heading out west, this would be a great boat for you to buy. Also, I would say it's definitely friendlier than the original Gnarvana. It's got better primary stability. It doesn't get offline as much, and you can kind of pick your lines a little better. The original Gnarvana, you got to know the line, you got to stick to it, or it will punish you. This is definitely a friendlier boat. So I would say all around they nailed it with a good design as far as a boat for everybody, where the Gnarvana is more of that race boat kind of you don't really want it unless you're kind of racing deal. But yeah, this is a great boat to have, all arounder. It's aggressive enough, and it's also friendly enough to have for pretty much any paddler, the beginner to advanced or pro or whatever you want to call it. It's not really, I wouldn't say there's a type of paddler that would fit into that mold as far as on skill level. Pretty much it fits everybody. Anyway, overall, Jackson made a great boat. Go ahead and demo one. And if you love Jackson, yeah, it's a great creek boat. So if you're a Jackson fan, go ahead and pick one up for yourself. All right, I'll see y'all later on the next review.